What's up guys? So today I'm going to be doing a hopefully quick video. Probably it won't be so quick. Um, on my little adventure and fight and so forth that occurred just a couple days ago, a couple weeks ago. Okay, around a week or two ago when I went to Disney World in Florida. And long story short, I could have very well not have been sitting here or doing any of this. Like, my entire life could have been completely different. I'm talking no more YouTube videos, um, no more school, even though I only have one semester left, and working a very low paying job and just trying to survive and probably crying myself to sleep at night. And so this is going to be my story, and I'm going to try not exaggerate things, but I feel like everyone, even if they try really hard, they end up blowing certain things at least slightly, at the very least slightly out of proportion to what really happened. Now, I'm going to keep it as short as possible because I know that if I said spoke all the details, it'd probably take like maybe even 30-40 minutes. So I'm going to keep it quick, and you guys know my normal video length is like 30-40 minutes, so that's not what I want this time. And yes, parts of it are somewhat embarrassing, and I guess the reason I'm telling you guys and making this video is um, I guess it's somewhat therapeutical to me, and on top of that, it can definitely impress upon certain viewers not to do certain things. That's the beauty of a community. You can learn, so you save a lot of time in your life, so you can do other stuff because you don't make the same mistakes if you're smart. Anyhow, so let's just get started, okay? I went on vacation to Disney World. My mom had mentioned it previously a couple times, and she never really asked me if I wanted to go. She mentioned it a few times, showed me the hotel and so forth, and I did remark something like, it looks kind of depressing and so forth. Um, I guess you could say I was in a gloomy emo mood. If you just watch my videos, occasionally they can get somewhat emo, but I don't like emo people, and I don't think I'm an emo person. Um, but one could argue that I'm somewhat shy and dark in certain ways. Hopefully not. Anyhow, the reason I said that was because I was just in a sad mood at the time, and I wasn't really sure why. I felt like, I was just going to school and it was really boring, and I'm at college and stuff, but that lifestyle it just was really, really boring for me at the time, and that can really very much happen. Um, you can just very easily end up in that state if you're looking to go to college and um, you watch too many movies about college and then you expect to be a certain way, and it's not. And for me, I was never the sort to be invited to parties and so forth. So that was one of the big things at the time. I was just a little bummed out, really wasn't sure why, and that's just how it is. It's not like in the I mean, maybe it is for you, but it's not like everyone who goes to college um, get they just get all invited to parties and so forth. A good chunk, at least in my school, they don't do any of this stuff, and I just feel like that was probably one of the things that put me down, because you would see people doing this stuff, and long story short, it was more than just this. Um, and so I I get home on the day of the last day of my finals. We have 1 week of finals, and I finished my last final in the morning. I drive home because I have a car, and immediately I'm told when I get there, pack up your stuff. We're leaving tonight. And I've mentioned this before in a previous video, and some of you guys would be like, why? Why are you so sad and angry that you're going to Disney World? Most people would be elated. But I explained this before in another video. For me, I don't get like, I try not to get happiness out of material things like that. And that just might be some BS excuse. Let's just be frank. I think maybe the real reason is because I have a phobia of roller coasters, which I talked about slightly in my Disney video. But I have a phobia of roller coasters, and on top of that, Disney World and a lot of rides. I'd been there before, like twice when I was younger, and it was a lot of kiddie stuff. So I didn't want to spend a week there doing all this stuff. It wasn't that interesting to me. Maybe it was just me being a whiny baby, and that's the true reason. But the BS excuse I was about to tell you was that I don't. I've trained myself in certain ways not to. At least I attempt to not gain happiness from material things, because at least for me, a lot of times I would get let down if that were to happen, especially during Christmas and stuff. And so we're going to Disney World. Surprisingly, the trip there was not as long and tortuous as I thought it'd be. And because I remember going there when I was younger, and I remember like the drive down there took like days, and it was just like trekking through the desert, and it was just hours of boredom. But it wasn't like that, because I had prepared. I had my iPod full of audiobooks to listen to, and I was asleep for a good portion of it. I had to drive too as well. But blah 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 blah. There was a few small fights in the car, and that was one of the biggest things. I was sort of scared to go anywhere extended with my family, because I knew fights were to break out. It's something I try to avoid. I try to be the best person I can, but for whatever reason, fights still break out. And I remember one of the small fight that broke out had to do with my dad just constant, like he was like telling me like, how could you do this, insulting me with my driving and so forth, and saying come on now, and I didn't like that at all. So fast forward, it ended pretty quickly, because we don't want to fight. We're at Florida. It looks pretty good, and honestly, I'm starting to feel great, because it actually isn't that bad. I mean, not everyone gets to do this stuff. And let's just fast forward to the actual event. So this is like the third or second day, and we're at our, I believe, second theme park. I believe it was Epcot, and I'm at this thing, and I'm 21 years old, right? It is Christmas time, which apparently was peak season time. So everyone was in line for everything. It was super crowded. So we were walking constantly, and then we were standing for a long time. And I'm gonna be honest, my legs were hurting, and we had only gone to like a few rides here and there, and we were walking the entire day, and it was going really, really good, and my grandma was with me too, and so my feet were hurting already. Let alone hers. I mean, hers were probably on fire, but she is very traditional Asian culture sort of girl. Um, so she's traditional Chinese, and one of the cultural things that she does is she never really admits weakness in any shape or form, and she's always like she's she'll like say like, I want to wear your really heavy backpack because I'm cold. And half the time I can't even tell if she's really cold or if she is just trying to find these sort of excuses to carry stuff for me. And so for the entire day, she was carrying my backpack, which was pretty heavy, and she was pulling the cart. And it was a cultural thing. Looking back, it seemed pretty obvious that she was making she was lying to lessen the weight for me. And quite honestly, my feet were aching a little bit, but not much. And before you guys say I'm a bad person, I tried numerous times to take that back from her, but here's the second cultural thing she does. She refuses, and she will get crazy about it, like crazy. Like she will start screaming, and she'll grab it and hold on to it like it's like she's like a quarterback, and it's a football season and it's Super Bowl. She won't let go. So she's pulling this uh, backpack cart and wearing a backpack as well. We have like you know those pull rolly backpacks that you pull. We had one with like snacks and food and stuff, which my Asian mom had to bring, and then my backpack, which I brought, which had just like clothing and a lot of like electronic stuff. And so I was just really confused at the time. Like I was partially Americanized, so I'm like, I'm just going to. I'm not really sure if she's really cold. It's not that cold, but sure. If she, I mean, I'm trying to be nice. I actually believed she was cold at the time. So she puts on the backpack, which was moderately heavy. And so here she was not complaining at all. And up until the big fight, I didn't realize how much it was pulling up on her. So let's just fast forward to the fight, because if I explain every detail, I've already skipped a lot of details, but if I explain every detail, it's going to go on for an hour. Okay, so we get to the big fight, right? This is what happens. I'm slightly frustrated because the map of the place is fairly, it's a large place. Epcot's pretty large. And I'm trying, like, my dad and the group I'm with, we split up into two groups for various reasons. My dad's just like, take the map, lead us to whichever ride. And he says it so matter of factly, but it's complicated. I mean, this map's like crazy. So I'm trying to lead them, and it's taking a while because it's a very long, like, these things are separated, and my grandma is lagging behind. But I keep telling her I'll just take the backpack. But no, she's crazy. She's a little crazy. It may be a cultural thing, but she's like, no, I'm not. She won't let go of it at all. She like grabs onto it, and she'll hold onto the strap and refuse to let go. So I'm there, and there's nothing I can do. So my grandma's always lagging way behind, but I have to stay in the front because my dad told me to, and we're going. And we get to each one, and it's either closed or it's too scary for our group to go under. For some reason, and this was not the reason why we split up into two groups, but our group was the scared group. We didn't like roller coasters. So I'm like, again, speaking in Chinese, Mandarin, I'm like, let's go to this one. And then we get there, and they're all like, we're not gonna ride this thing. Um, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even know it was a roller coaster. And I mentioned this briefly, but I have a huge phobia of roller coasters, which I slightly conquered um, throughout my life, and slightly more when I went on this trip. Um, but anyhow, we passed Test Track, which was the one I'm talking about, which I actually went on the last time I went to Disney World, and and we went to the next one, which was Ellen's Energy Adventure, which you guys all know. It's the ride that features Ellen DeGeneres before she was famous, and I'm going to do a whole video on just that ride and how Ellen should come back and revamp it up, because it features the Ellen with the super long hair before she even started her talk show. Anyhow, we get to that and we find out it's been closed for since 7 p.m. It's really late. We've been walking the whole day and stuff. And on top of that, my little sisters, after I mentioned the stamp thing we did at Epcot the last time we came, they had all forgotten about, we decided to do a stamp thing, which was they give you like a free stamp book, and then you go to each of the mini countries and you find a specific guy and they'll stamp the book. It's actually really, it's not really hard, but it's harder than you think. It takes a while, and that's pretty much the reason we split into two groups. Anyhow, we're Group B. We're just looking for rides. Group A is trying to finish up the stamp thing. We're done with the stamps. We're tired. And then like after Ellen's Adventure being closed, we're just like, oh my gosh, and I just want to find another ride to ride. Why? Because half of me had just tolerated enough, and it was the selfish me. I shouldn't have done it at the time, but I was just selfish because I had tolerated too much of boring stuff throughout the day, and I wanted something interesting, so I wanted a good ride. And at the same time, I realized there's no really good rides at Epcot. Most of it is for kids in certain ways. And I'm just like, you know what, screw it. Let's go on the Phineas and Ferb ride. I don't even want to go on it, but it's the best thing, whatever. The little siblings will like it, so I lead them off. And we're going, right? We've been walking for like 5 minutes, and it's crowded as heck. And it will take probably around 5 minutes more to get there. And it's tough because this map is confusing as heck. And I know we're in the right direction, but my dad's starting to say, how long is this going to take? Where are we going? And he's asking all these questions, and he's getting really antsy. And that's what sparked the whole thing. That's what sparked this whole fight. And he's getting all antsy and so forth, and I'm like, come on, this is nothing in terms of exercise to stay healthy. This isn't really even considered excessive exercise on a day-to-day basis. But I know, my dad's old and my grandma's old. They don't ever exercise. They don't bother to or choose to. But they'll never admit that they're tired. And at the time, I was just, I don't know, I was still in a daze. So looking back, everything's clear when you're looking back, but at the moment, I'm just really confused. So I'm like, I don't feel like they should be that tired, but my dad's asking all these antsy questions, like, how long is it going to take to get there? Do you really want to go on this? Let's just stop. Let's just take a breather and forget all these rides and wait for your mom's group to come back. And I knew that if we chose to do that, I'd be sitting there for another hour waiting for them. And it was like the whole day was just me tolerating them doing a lot of boring stuff. So that was the selfish sort of thing, looking back, that started the whole thing. And now I realize, okay, how selfish could I be? I was in Epcot with my family. Sure, it wasn't the most interesting thing ever. Sure, because I didn't like roller coasters, I had to go through a lot of boring stuff. And because I was an adult, a lot of the stuff interesting to kids was not for me anymore. So yeah, sure, I spent a lot of the day tolerating stuff, but it was sure a lot more heck exciting than um, a lot of other stuff in my life. So I don't know what the heck I was thinking at the time. I was thinking, you know what, this is probably not as fun as me at home playing on a computer, which now seems so retardedly stupid. But at the time, I was thinking it, and that's when I erupted and I said all this stuff. I'm like, you know what? I already told my mom I didn't even want to come anyways, but out of the kindness of my heart, I came with this on this stupid, boring trip with you, and then I just erupted, and I'm like, I said a lot of stuff I shouldn't have, and my dad just sort of egged me on, which he shouldn't have, and basically um, I was like, I said what just said, and he's like, rather than being the calm, neutral dad, he was like, yeah, well, you should have stayed in Maryland then. Why'd you come? And I'm like, because my mom, because mom said that I had to go. And then he said a lot of stuff uh, like I'm not gonna get into it, but long story short, it went something like it got to a point where it was like, you are a despicable dad. How can you respond like this? You are look at you. Your temper is rising. You're angry. I inherited this from you. Blah 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 blah. And he just sort of egged me on. He's like, yeah, you're like that. No, you're like that, not me. And yeah, my dad's kind of childish in certain ways. That's just how he is. He's very simple-minded. Um, and he's like, you should have just stayed at home. Why'd you even come? Waste of money. Blah blah blah. And he sort of egged me on. He was pretty much saying like I didn't even want to be there, and he didn't want me there. So I just got really angry, and we we got to a point where I was like, he was sort of egging me on to say certain stuff, and I was like, fine, then just disown me. And he's like, yeah, fine. And then I just started walking in the opposite direction. My grandma slightly freaked out, but I think through the years she's changed. With church and stuff, she doesn't really freak out like I would have imagined she would have freaked out tremendously. And no, I didn't do this to get a reaction out of anyone. I was just really mad at the time. And I really just wasn't sure what to do when I just walked away from them and just melted into the crowd. But I was angry, and then I walked. They knew what was going on, and I disappeared. So I still had my cell phone and stuff, and that night was really, really long for me. It was very long. Um, I want to shorten it because I don't know how long this battery on the camera is going to be. I feel like it's gonna die soon. Holy crap! It's already 20. It's already 20 minutes into the recording. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to shorten the whole dialogue on the longest night ever. But it was a very long night for me. I sat on the bench, watched hundreds of people pass me by at the amusement park for hours. And I don't know. It's an elaborate thing, and long story short, I was just there thinking and contemplating, just like not returning. Like I was seriously contemplating it because I was 21. I was 21 now. I was an adult. And that's the long story short. I don't want to spend another 20 minutes elaborating on it. I thought about it a lot, and my mom found me after just a couple hours, and um, you know, my mom has been controlling and commanding and a lot of things all my life, and it sort of just built up, and I wasn't mad or angry at her, but um, I was, but I didn't show it in an enraged way. And I was just like, you know what, I'm really fed up in a lot of ways with you. And I said, I'm just going to walk off now. And she was like, um, you promise you're going to return? And I didn't respond, and I just walked off. And long story short, okay, I'm just going to keep, like, this can be elaborated tremendously. So I hope you guys don't extrapolate too much from just the small bit I'm saying. But I have to abridge this video, otherwise it's going to take an hour. I thought there for quite a while, and I talked to a lot of the employees there, and I was thinking about just, getting a job here and just putting my last semester of college on hold, and just plugging myself away and just thinking about it, because certain things weren't that bad. I would be finally free from the tyranny of my family and a lot of stuff. And I mean, I was still a kid. Just because you're in college doesn't mean you're grown up. So I was very scared about all this, and I don't know if I could have done it. That's the whole thing. I don't know if I could have done it. I feel like I might have been able to. I had a lot of cash on me. I could have survived for a few weeks, and it seemed like I could have potentially gotten a job as a Disney employee, gotten a house, and then cut off all contact with them. And I was seriously considering all this, and it was all